Okay. Perfect. We've got the correct chat on there. Let's get rolling. Let's get rolling. All right, let's do the dark drippings. Start off with a little bit of water. And the brush we've been using for the drippings is this one right here. I'm going to lose the shirt. I'm going to lose the sweatshirt. It's long sleeves like to knock everything over. Okay, this one has the drippings done on it. So it's mainly these other two that we need to focus on. And Army Painter light tone. Army Painter soft tone. And Army Painter mid brown. I know, Jeffrey. Thanks for coming by. Well, I want to get to the British. The only way I'm going to get to the British is I got to do the Africa Corps. There's no point jumping ship now. What I'm on a tear on is I'm like, I don't know what I need to do. So just start painting. Like the sandbags came out like stellar. And that's basically what I had to ask myself. Do I want them lighter than the color of the tank or darker? And I'm like, lighter. Lighter than the color of the tank. And I'm telling you, any pictures I take, they look better in person. As I am a shitty picture taker, or the human eye is just super advanced. But I see stuff in person that just doesn't come out in the videos. That doesn't come out in the pictures. And yeah, and you know what I'm gonna tear on? Painting my own stuff. Like I spend a lot of time like looking decals, who makes decals for this, and unless it's like the decals for the desert rats, like the Jerboa, I'm gonna hand paint stuff because I'm quicker, and and I can do it immediately instead of like, well, let's see whenever they get the order in kind of thing. I lost those. I misplaced all those German crosses from Skytrex, and they were actually really nice. I don't know where I put them. I put them somewhere. I got tired of looking for them. I'm just painting on my own German crosses. It's empowering. It's empowering to do all that stuff. So, and then you feel like painting the figure, and I'll be damned if the guy didn't come out great. So I think one thing that we need to do is, just because it's appropriate, I think tomorrow morning we're going to paint Rommel. I think we're going to paint Rommel. I got a Rommel figure that's literally him. So he's a German general set from Odomar's, and he's got like a little scarf and so forth. But honestly, one of the things that I've liked how this turned out more than anything else I've painted is those damn Airfix figures from 1981. It just, whoever that sculptor was, man, they really knew what they were doing because they came out really, really well. And it wouldn't have come out really, really well if the sculptor wasn't really good. So, And I never in a million years thought I was going to paint that stuff. Like, oh, those Airfix figures, those MPC figures, because they were MPC here for the people, those of us in the States. Oh, that's just plastic figures. They're not gonna be any good. The hell they're not. They're great. But remember when I started working on the Afrika Corps, I actually didn't know how they were going to turn. I didn't really have a paint scheme in my mind. And I'm getting pretty good of kind of inventing how what color things are going to be, and kind of being happy with it the first time around that I come up with it. So that's all I can ask for. But just like when I was doing 15 millimeter figures and really enjoyed painting some of the figures that people just didn't care about or looked over, or like, oh, those are just so and so's. Why bother painting those? I really enjoyed building like the two wrecks that I did, painting the two wrecks. That 222 armored car and the Humber. But the other reason I do this is it puts me in a good mood. Oh, that little guy fell over. Well, we're going. We haven't glued this yet, have we? Yeah, no, we haven't glued this yet. The bloody cough that won't go away. I don't think I wish the antennas weren't facing down. I like the putting the vertical. It gives it something else to look forward to. But it takes a long time to work on this stuff. But I don't know if you've noticed this whole week I painted in the mornings. Tried to paint in the evenings every chance I got. A little bit more difficult for me. I get tired of. I don't get the right motivators. I'm like, okay, well, nobody showed up. I'm going to bed. You know. But definitely in the mornings. All right, let's do the turret. I mean, I can wake up to go to work. I can wake up to go paint. Let's wake up to go paint. Okay. I'm pretty certain. And I believe these are actually the bags that are meant to be for the roof. We don't need to slow down the turret traverse there. I'm gonna grab my super glue. Go ahead and super glue that in. It was this way, wasn't it? Shit. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yep. And these little bags over here on the side. Go. How did it go? There we go. All right, I'm going to grab some of this beige brown. We still have the wooden things to paint on this guy. That beige brown, it certainly is. And a little bit of white. But I got a lot of British stuff to paint. A lot. Yep. It's all on that side. All the wooden bits are over here. Might as well paint these as well. Really looking forward to doing some Italian tanks too. Yeah, still too wet. Let that sit for a little bit. What else we got? We got the mufflers on both of them to paint. Let's go ahead and do that. I think what I'll do is I'm going to seal all three of these at once. And the pieces parts on the back here actually turned out pretty well. Pretty happy with how those turned out. What we're doing? Oh, muffler. Get some orange brown out here. Right, and all of this goes in this dark gas color. Well, I found out something really interesting that I did not know yesterday. And I hadn't talked about it this morning. Honestly, forgot to mention it. One of my favorite books for scenarios that I like is the Skirmish Campaign series. And they're hard to come by. They're relatively expensive, but they're really good. There's only one that I've bought that I regretted getting, and that's the Normandy First Hours, because it does a lot of beach landing kind of crap, which isn't really my thing. But I've got probably 8 of them. I got the Misadventures in North Africa. I've got 2 Kursk ones. The Red Guards at Kursk and Grossdeutschland at Kursk. I've got the 3 for early 1941 to Russia, which is Drive to Minsk into the Ukraine, and one other one. I don't remember which one it is. Drive on Minsk, Ukraine, and maybe it has something to do with Leningrad. Basically, an Army Group North, an Army Group South, and an Army Group Center based one. Heroes of Omaha and Panzer Lehr. I have the British one in North Africa, which is the Epsom one. And I may have 1 or 2 more. Anyways, they're excellent. I just found out yesterday, surfing around, that they are now available as PDFs for $15. Which, PDF is, I think, Latin for you get your shit immediately. Hey, I'm a big fan of that. So, there's a chance. There's a chance I'll be getting the France one in 1940. Skirmish campaigns are expensive these days when you can find them. Well, $15 isn't bad, or what's that? 8 quid? No, 12, something like that. Yeah, they used to be 20 or $25 always. Um, but anyways, I may be getting one of the French ones because I've got those two KFZ 13s. I can't really use those for anything other than France. I could use them for anti-partisan duties. And I've got all those Czech 38s. So there's a Rommel one, right? Rommel in Ghost Division or whatever. That is it. Drive on Minsk, Ghost of Smolensk, and into the Ukraine. That's the 1941 in Russia. Because there's a Rommel 1941. Because this guy makes all the French vehicles. The last two you bought were Russia-Polish War and the Winter War. Is the Russian-Polish one any good? And there's no tanks in that. It might be some armored cars. I really like the format. I really like the size of the battles. The one from Heroes of Normandy and Panzer called, there's one small scenario called Purple Heart Hill. I actually made in 3D. I have the board up in the attic. Well, it's not really the attic anymore, but I made a 3D board with there's like a trench in it, and I cut that out, so it's actually below the board, and it's actually 2 inches thick. And at some point, I probably should refurbish that board, but it looks like ass by today's standards, or I think it does. But there's no reason I shouldn't fix it up. I don't want the Muse one. The Muse one that has Guderian on the cover has too much river crossing shit. And that just doesn't interest me. You have the Ghost Division book and a few of the Western Front books. Is the Ghost Division book good? Are there any A13s in that one? Are any of the scenarios have A13s in them? Because I'll take those two A13s that I have that are not Mark IIs, and I'll repaint them and use them for North. I really like the BEF camouflage. It looks freaking great, honestly. It looks really good. I don't even know what I'm doing here with the colors I'm mixing. I got excited about doing the the green and black camo on those planes on the tanks. Oh, and the Fallet one. The problem is the Fallet is British, French, and Poles, and I don't want to do Poles or French because all they're doing is using either British kit or American kit. Fallet Firestorm, that's what that one's called. It's mainly interconnected small actions. No tanks. Well, $15 isn't bad. And you get it immediately. So, like, there aren't that many more that I want, anyways. I mean, there's the Fallet Firestorm, the Rommel one, the Ghost Division one. That may be it. I don't want the Muse one. It's got like 2/3 of the scenarios are like crossing a damn river. I'm not building a river. Um, oh, there's the Bardia one. The problem is the Bardia one is too damn early. You know, if you have something like a Matilda that shows up against the Tines have no way to get rid of a Matilda. I keep forgetting that Bardia one. Surprised there's not a Bulge one. As popular as Battle of the Bulge is. Okay, let's add a little bit more orange. But I just found that out yesterday. You could like buy PDFs of them. I'm like, that's great. And the Polish one's probably not bad. Okay, that's done. Yeah, they make skirmish campaigns. I wish everybody did PDF stuff. Colonial campaigns. What the hell is that? O'Rourke's Drift. Zulu. Upcoming titles. I don't know. I don't know if they've put out that any new stuff lately, but I've always liked their stuff. I don't know how you find download skirmish campaigns, link skirmish campaigns. Okay. Click here. Oh, there we go. Skirmish Elite. Operation Overload or 82nd Airborne. Doesn't interest me. I don't like U.S. Airborne. Valet Firestorm, that one looks pretty good. Combat Jump Sicily, also not interested. Aussie Zipardia, okay, not bad. Crete. Crete is just something that doesn't interest me. They have the 1941 one, the 1914 one, sorry. Russia-Polish War, another Crete one. Yeah, nope. Hamburger Hill, Vietnam, nope. Red Devils on the Oran. You know, if I had to do airborne, it would be British Airborne. North of Leningrad, I have that one's. Belgium 1940, Hunters of the Ardennes. Like, I know people make Belgian troops, but Monty's Epsom, I have that one. Misadventure North Africa, I have that one. Rommel World War One, I forgot that they had that one. Heroes of Omaha and Peninsula, that one's actually a pretty good one. Red Guards at Kursk, I have that. Grossdeutschland at Kursk, I have that one. Ghost of Smolensk, I have that one. Normandy, the first hours, I have that one and it sucks. Winter War, 41 Russia into the Ukraine, I have this with France 1940 Ghost Division. Here's a campaign game, Clash with a BF. Black Brigade. Complete book for recreating the skirmish level battles and campaigns centered on the heroic defense put up by the Polish 10th Mechanized Brigade. Little TKS tankettes. Drive on Minsk. I have that one. Battle for the Meuse. Norway, another thing that just doesn't interest me. That's it. So, yeah, not much left that I'm interested in. Just checking out the site, lots of potential, and there are some downloadable scenarios. I think I had all the downloadable scenarios. Let's see if they put out some new ones. Yeah, I've downloaded all these. This one's always interesting. This Hedgerow Hell one. I think this one is a standalone one. This was never included in one of the in any of the books. And it's a little 3 by 3 foot map. Like the Germans are on the attack with a platoon that only has 2 squads in it, and the Americans only have an infantry squad. But this one actually has a Sherman on there. Has a Sherman tank as a special rule. Smiley face is the location of a broken down M4A1 Sherman tank. The tank's engine will not start and is waiting repair by the overworked staff at division. The crew has withdrawn. Upon further inspection by the GIs on an action, they will find there's no ammunition for the bow MG. They do not know how to shoot the main gun. There is sufficient battery to rotate the turret, and if attempt is made to do this, roll a skill check. Pass indicates that the person figures it out. Fail indicates they don't. The same person may not try twice. There's limited ammunition for the AA Mount 30 cal and for the Coax 30. So you just use it as like a pillbox with a 30 caliber. And a 50 if you want to become crew exposed. Fancy that Belgian scenario book. I have some Belgians and Chasseurs-Ardennais. Why does that? I feel like those guys are on bikes. Belgian armor in 20 millimeter. Early War Miniatures makes all that stuff, don't they? What's their tank is a T-13, I think, or something like that. I don't know. Early tanks sucked, so they could probably really fight them, fight them off. Chasseur Athénée. That sounds like somebody that's on bikes. Yeah, they definitely make some Belgian troops. I want to say even whatchamacallit used to make Belgian troops. Battlefield. Well, my daughter is going to Scotland. I don't know when the heck she's going to go to Scotland, but she's planning on going there, Paris for a long weekend, and Vienna. And of those three, I'd rather go to Scotland than the other two. And it's not for the haggis. You might as well go to those places while you're already in Europe. All right, let me ditch this. I need to start keeping these lids. The lids are very useful. All right, I'll be right back with another dose. Two T-13 tankettes, so I was right. And a T-13 tank destroyer. Ooh. Ooh la la. Oh, when did I put mute? Oh, shit. Thank you. Damn it. Well, who knows what the hell I was saying. Oh, I was looking at that French tank museum in Saumur. That place is really in the way of nowhere, except it's near that town that the SS leveled, Radour-sur-Glane. But there's some places in Europe that you don't need a car. I think in France you pretty much have to have a car. The distances are greater than if you're going to visit different places. I don't have a huge interest in going to Paris. I don't. It's an extremely large city, and I don't want to visit cities of that. I thought London was okay for a big city, but that was just kind of a fluke because it wasn't like that was our destination to go to. Of course, the pens that were balanced back there earlier. No, they could stay on the floor. These fell in the corner. It's like, what the hell is that sound? Insolent pen. They're like writing utensils pens. I went and grabbed one earlier today from my wife and it tipped over. I never took care of it, but it didn't knock anything else over. It's over there in the corner. Never a dull moment here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do something here, and I don't know what it is I'm gonna have to do. Actually, I think I do. I'm gonna put these little rods and have them underneath the just to pull this suspension down. This is the one that freaking fell on the ground and it broke. Pissed me off. All because I was wearing long sleeves. Yeah, I think that's how I'm gonna replace that. Because of course it happens, after I've already painted the thing, after I've already invested 15 hours or whatever into it. I don't know if it was 15 hours, but time. Certainly, I got paper clips or something like that. I do. They're just not. this would work. Actually, this would probably work great. Of course, they're too big, aren't they? Yeah, they're way too large for that. Those are too big. I don't have to do all of them, just like probably 2. Would you know, the one I grabbed is split. Might as well use something that I already have. No need to go out and buy. Yeah, just something like that to pull it down. On the other ones right here, I really only, probably one would be enough. Maybe 2. No point in making this process take longer than it needs to. This should work, right? No, now it's too fucking tall. Yeah, it looks fine. And then we'll paint that black after it's dry. Can't even see it. Okay. I might actually wait to seal these guys for a couple days so it's not really cold out there. I don't know if it's going to have any effect on it, but I'd certainly hate to go through all this work and then all of a sudden, like, oops, it did something that it wasn't supposed to. That'd be unfortunate and totally preventable. Captain Pugwash, welcome. Any plans for trying out the new rules? No. No, it works the opposite for me. I am motivated to paint, and the rules are an afterthought, not the other way around. Um, but I'm probably going to use them as is, And I'm probably there's going to be things that I'm going to like probably the more in the version one of the rules. Fortunately, I have the version one of the rules. But if some things can be streamlined and move quicker, like the way morale is calculated, or the way morale is calculated, the way that spotting is done, if you can speed those things up, that's fine. The actual combat, I don't think it needs to be slowed down. I don't think it moves too slow. You know, it simplifies. You don't have to look up. All right, what happens when you get a shaken result and the guy's already pinned? You know. Now, for the people that don't have the version one of the rules, I think it kind of sucks because a lot of the vehicle data isn't there. I mean, you could make it up yourself, but most people aren't going to want to do that sort of thing. And I don't know if they just deliberately did that because they want to go into this codex mentality of. I mean, at least the first version of the rules, the core rule version one of the rules, had all the German and all of the Soviet data in there. All of it. Like literally every single vehicle ever made. I mean, they even got freaking. I'm pretty certain that they have Dicker Max and Stur Emil in there. And they only made two of each of those. So I don't know if they're planning on, oh, we're going to release, this stuff later. That's like, dude, you already have that data out there. I don't think the data changed other than going to a D10 system, which I'm not, I don't want a Mauser and I don't want every submachine gun to be the same. I'm just like, I'm not going to play that way, you know. I believe that he has other stats in hand for release later. Well, I don't mind giving him money because I've been really happy with his rules. So, I mean, other people may not have that attitude, but I don't have a problem with that. But his scenarios, though, are not very good compared to skirmish campaigns. The skirmish campaign scenarios are actually I don't know if that set of rules even comes with any scenarios. But if they don't, I mean, I don't think that you're not missing anything there. I think that the only thing that the rules would have that I would have put in the rules that they didn't have in version one is a flow chart. Like make a screen that's a flow chart. Okay, do this and then do this thing. And if you're shaken, then this happens. And if you're shaken on top, if you get two shaken results, what is that? What happens if you're pinned and you get a shaken? Does it matter? What about two pins? What's that mean? That kind of stuff. So you don't do that part wrong. The rest of the rules, I think are pretty are pretty straightforward. Go for it, painting. You too, man. It's going really well. I went for it. I fell for it. And that's one of the reasons I like the set of rules is it makes sense. There's no abstract shit in there. I can't figure out abstract stuff. Well, does he mean this or does he mean that? No, it's pretty obvious what he means. And as long as I'm happy with how I choose to play it, that's all that really happens. I don't think that the way the collision, as we had that battle where there was a collision where two tanks collided with each other, two vehicles collided with each other, or really one of them smashed into the other one. I don't think that played right. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel like anybody should have been able to live from that. I mean, that was like, of course, that was like Japanese samurai suicide type of thing. But still, if that impact would have happened, nobody would have walked out. Nobody would have walked out from that. All right, now what we don't have is we don't have a crooked coconut on here. on either one of these two, and we don't have a Balkenkreuz on either one of the two. And they're not sealed. Other than that, you know, they're pretty much done. I'm really happy with the way the sandbags turned out, color wise. Color wise. As a matter of fact, I'm going to. Where's this dry? Where's this little small little dry brush? Is it this one? Yeah, this little guy right here. Let's get some of this the sand here. Looks like there may be print on demand cards through drive through. Well, like I've said before, I like different products that makes the consumer that gives the consumer other options. I won't be buying any cards because even though I like the cards, I like the idea of the cards, it involves me shuffling. I don't know that there's anything I'm worse at than shuffling cards. Except maybe the quadratic formula. I hate the quadratic formula. And I don't hate the cards. I just can't. I don't hate shuffle. Yeah, I hate shuffling. I hate shuffling. I even watch videos on how to shuffle. Nope. And even if I shuffled, I just don't believe you get a good randomization of who's up next with a card shuffle compared to a die roll or compared to a chip pull out of a bag. And I got a bunch of chits already made, so. But you know, it's not like, oh, this sucks that they made them. No, it's good for the consumer. The consumer needs options. That just doesn't appeal to me. That's something that never appealed to me. But the chip pull and also two people doing their action at the same time, that doesn't appeal to me. I won't be doing that. It creates too much chaos for starters. And that doesn't necessarily speed the game up. Because I could be like, what did you do while I was doing? And then you have to explain that. Like, it's just easier to go one action at a time. Now, one of these had an area up here that wasn't lightened up very much. I forget which one of these two it was. Maybe it was this one. But again, it doesn't matter to me how other people play the game, just like it shouldn't matter to anybody else how I play it. Well, you're not playing the rules the way they were intended. Okay. I didn't think the rules needed a version 2 of them. I just think they needed to be in the print so people could access them. Let's go around the track. And you know, some people may not like the rules anyways. Got to be like, oh well, I like to play skirmish, but I like each person to have a company. Well, that's not a skirmish game. You're making decisions that you shouldn't be making in a skirmish game. You know, if you're running a whole company, then you don't need to be deciding where, you know, which doorway Hans is going to be in. I always thought a half squad's right amount of figures per person. And then you got to cooperate with somebody else. You know, you got two people running a squad. Okay, now let's look at what areas we have to operate in. One of these has the same back as this one, which is this one. So I'm not going to put the crosses in exactly the same place on purpose. So I'm going to move the cross up here in front, right behind the vision slot. And same thing on this one. And I don't think I can put one behind it. I can, but you won't be able to see it. It's way too small. And I'm not even going to attempt to try to do an Afrika Korps symbol here on this vertical area. It's just too small. It's just way too small. So let's get that on. Let's get a really good brush for this. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up a batch here of gray. And we'll take this off. And hopefully don't lose any of the things that we glued in the process of flipping this over. And likewise, we'll go to the other side and do the same thing. Okay, and we can clean up that white as well. I might actually put an Afrika Korps palm down here in the back. So that is a possibility of doing that. And yeah, there's just nowhere to put it back there because of that little flange. If that flange wasn't there, then we'd be good. I could also paint one over the back of this thing. That might not be so bad. Let's do it on this. Let's do it on this one. And this one will be in the standard location. There. And there. All right. Then we're going to get black. The rules look similar to sergeants, that each soldier has 2 to 3 activation cards. Can't see me moving away from nuts, though, as I have ready opponent and have invested in the system. Yep. Yeah, 3, people don't really have 3 unless you're like some super person. I think 2 is a good number because then there's a chance that you could go twice in a row. It's not likely, but there's a chance you could go twice in a row. You got 3, somebody could potentially go 3 times in a row. It's not likely, but that would be like that whole Lieutenant Spears, like he did in that one episode where he just took off down the road and like nobody was able to shoot him. That's what it was. It was just kind of got everybody with their pants down type of thing, and that's what it simulates. But the fact that it doesn't have opportunity fire is huge. Like that is a massive waste of time. Figuring out opportunity fire. And all right, I'm going to move over here. And like, oh no, bring them back. Oh, you know, it's that nonsense is just for the birds. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing over here. Might as well do all of them at once. Yeah, I know you play nuts. Which is the one that I always get confused in? The one that's made by Buck Surdu. It comes with a deck. And like you don't roll dice, you pull a card from the deck. I'm like, you lost me on that one. And I never got a chance to play sergeants. I would have wanted to. The last Historicon I went to, I would have played sergeants if I wasn't sitting there waiting for people to not show up and play DBA. But sergeants is actually too shiny. The battlefield's way too shiny. I'm looking forward with interest to Chain of Command 2. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't want to have to rebuy all those damn books. And like I said, I bought one of the Chain of Command books, the Wintergewitter one. And then in the Core Force, I found an error immediately that I think is kind of an obvious error. And I'm like, okay, well, I thought these guys were privy to some kind of special information. That's what happens when you get a scenario book. You're like, oh man, these guys must have some source that I've never dreamed of. And they're going to have these realistics. And they're pulling shit out of their ass too. You just never heard of it before. Those sources that we want just don't exist. They don't have that specific type of information. Okay, so we got our black cross there pretty clean on all of them. Let's go fill in with a white. I didn't even know they were going to play Chain of Command too. Well, the best thing about Chain of Command, I think, and I've said this before, had I not discovered Face of Battle, I'd probably be playing Chain of Command and modifying it. Now, I don't like Chain of Command because it's a D6. I don't like Chain of Command because it treats weapons like that's a B type of gun and that's an A kind of gun. I don't like that mentality or that. But everything else about it, and I don't like you being able to just pick any random guy. But that's, you could house rule those things in there. There is, I do like the dice, and okay, I can with this dice I can give this kind of order. I like that. And Chain of Command has a lot of videos out there on YouTube of how to play the game. Now, just like Mitch and I, those guys seem to make a lot of mistakes too. I don't know that they're intentional or not, but you know, there just seems to be a lot of, oh, I'm sorry, I got this wrong or whatever. I'm like, be the fucking designer. But you know, I say things and don't mean what I say by, you know, errors, so I can forgive that kind of stuff, but Richard Clark seems a nice enough guy. Some of the other guys he plays in the game with seem a bit weaselly. I don't want to play with weaselly people. But Richard Clark seems like a nice enough fellow. I wish the game wasn't a D6 game, but I'm quitting my day job. I just did. Mr. Ben, okay, for some reason, you have a stream scheduled, but it was for this morning and it says it's waiting for you. Not sure what happened there. I don't know what happened either. I don't know if I can change it. By the way, I stopped playing that girl. I got through her storyline today. I'm back to playing Henry, or Heinrich, as he should be called. Let me see if I can get to the bottom of what kind of queer hell is going on here. Let's see here. I don't know. It's really annoying because I swear I don't do anything different anytime. Why would I want to complicate shit? I don't see it on here. I believe you, you know, but your videos. Oh, there's a processing video. So the one this morning is still processing. This is the one from this morning. Oh, adding details to Panzers. Okay, but that's the one from this morning. Add to playlist. Let's put it on the live stream. Okay, save it. It's still processing. I don't know why it's processing. Not sure. Like I said, technology should make your life easy, not be a bitch at every turn. Okay. And then this one over here, this is the one that has one on the back. We'll do the back one last. So hopefully tomorrow morning we can work on the G's. And I never bought any F's from this guy. But the F's weren't, according to this micromark list, there weren't any F's in November 41. I'm sure that some were retrofitted, but or not retrofitted, but modernized. And the one on the back. Watched all 3 hours of the morning feed. Excellent. Your check's in the mail. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this and just listen to books on whatever anymore. It's just, I get bored. You guys don't interact that much with me, but it's enough that gives me talking points, or you bring something and then we could talk about that, or, you want to bring anything up, we can talk about that too. But I know it's a pain to type, and it's a pain to type when you type something, and then there's like a delay. There's like a 30-second delay before I see it. And unfortunately, it has all that stuff, but... And that's not my doing. That's just how it is. That's that 30-second delay that the people that are watching this feed can shut it down in case I decide to, take a shotgun out or something, Because that's actually happened before. Don't forget to get your whole head in front of the shotgun. Okay, now. And this actually turned out really, sometimes I'm just like, I don't know how this is going to turn out. And then you just do it and you're like, oh, what was I worried about? Wow, oh. Okay. The back of these things they gave me turned out really, really happy with how that turned out. You're reading today that in Poland and France, there was no standardization of the different marks of Panzer IIIs and frontline units. Yeah, well, the thing is the British, when I'm doing the research on the British tank, on the A-13s, like, the British were just as notorious as the Germans were for, like, making field modifications. And that makes it interesting, but the Germans did a really good job at documenting stuff. And, the British not so much. Or it's not as easy to find the British stuff. The Germans were better at tattling on themselves. If I was doing Poland, there's no way in hell I would do German crosses that are completely white. It looks wrong. It looks wrong on every level. So if I was gonna do, I would just end up doing markings like they did in France for Poland. I don't remember which one's which one, but it doesn't really matter that much. Um, the one that's broken is 35. Yeah, so it was this way. The turrets aren't weathered on the holes, anyways. They're weathered separately. And I mean, these things, I didn't have to clean up the turret ring. They float really gently. What the hell am I trying to say? Oh, I did do it wrong. 135 is the one that's the broken one. Come on. You can do it. Okay. Now, on one of these, I'm going to paint the Afrika Korps symbol back here on the back of the turret because I got space for it. So I'm going to start off with, we're going to paint the crooked spider first. Sorry, can't show you. I could, I just can't show you on here. You got to come over to my house. You're welcome to come here. I don't want the bots after me. Even though I've mentioned, hey, there's the evil mothers every time I say it, that's not good enough. They'll still ban. You got all kinds of issues to run into. So I'm going to start. I think I want to go a little bit darker than normal so it's easier to see. I'm going to do a little X. If anybody watched it, I'd make another channel or at least post stuff on what's that one? What's the non sissy YouTube one? I forget I don't even know what it's called. Nobody's on that thing. And then I can show pictures of this. And you know what? If I showed pictures of swastika stuff, I would even put in the description, these are the evil motherfuckers. And I would put, the swastika thing. It's not like we're going to promote that stuff. Do you hand paint the numbers on the back of the turret? I did. I did because the decals I wanted weren't available. And I'm glad I did. Oop. You go a little bit darker than that. And it's easy with practice. With a brush that performs miracles. That behaves well for me. I'm not very good at figuring out the thickness of the paint when it comes to airbrushing. But I am with hand painting. I've been doing it for many, many years. So I'm really comfortable doing that. Now, let's rinse all this out. Now we've got Can you have a close-up? Absolutely. Let's do the first one that we did. And I think the reason why I'm relatively successful with it is I've always treated it like sketching. Like you don't try to do it right the first time. Like, get everything in proportion. Let's see if we can. The 15th Panzer Division, both of the Panzer divisions that were in North Africa, did numbering schemes that I don't really care for. Like I personally like three numbers, and I like them not going over any like hatches or anything like that. But neither one of the two units did that. Um, and the other unit, the 21st, and the 5th Light Division before, they would always have hollow numbers, and they would always go, or the center might be painted, but hollow white with a color in the middle, and they would go over like the entire side of the turret would be like that, and it doesn't look. I don't think it looks good on the vehicle in real life. If something doesn't look good in real life, you're probably not gonna like your interpretation of it either. Let's see if I can. Yeah, here we go. Here's the side. You just take it one stroke at a time. It's not. It's super empowering. They're like, okay, I need them to be this big, and I want them to be red. Like, okay, nobody makes those. You don't have to worry about them silvering. It's. I think it's pretty easy. Now I don't know if I'd want to do if I wanted white around them. It'd just be a little trickier. I'd have to make them because the problem is you're gonna have to make them bigger, and how big does the outline look, kind of thing. And the other thing that's really tricky is if you try to do two of the same number, like 133. That's two threes next to each other. They got to look similar, or it's really going to throw you off, because the human eye catches all kinds of tricks. So I've been real happy with it. So, and yeah, it takes a little bit of time, but it's empowering, and you just keep going. And a lot of like these German crosses, I can't get them that size. I'd have to do 15s and do small 15s and then order them. And then it's $15 to get them ordered. Then you get them here, they're not the right size, or you got to cut them down. And it's like, heck, just paint them. I mean, yeah, it doesn't look perfect, but it looks perfect enough. All right, start off with the crooked coconut. And it's actually one of the things I like to do more than anything else. And one of the reasons I like to do it more than anything else is because lots of people are scared to do it. I'm happy with the results, and it's something that a lot of people don't do. What I don't like to do is clean flash off things, because I feel like anybody can do that. Bring me in for special purposes, not stuff that anybody can do. But if you send me a picture on, if you send me a message on Facebook, what do you call it? Facebook Messenger. I can send you a picture of what this looks like up close. I just don't want to do it in a public forum because, you run into issues. You run into issues that aren't monitored by people. They're monitored by machines. And, we don't promote any totalitarian idiots here. Okay, and this one has the one on the front. This one, yep, because it's got the spot for it, right? And I don't want to put one here next to the number. It's going to be really out of bounds. So this one just won't have one. It's not a big deal. Yeah, you just got to take it one step at a time and realize that you're not going to get it right the very first time. Sometimes it requires a little bit of cleanup. Sometimes you're like, hey, let's add a little bit more white and clean that little bit up. I paint really, really thin, like thickness wise, so it's not like it's difficult to correct. You could spend a lot of time looking for the right decals and then realize you don't have them. Okay, this is the original one, the first one. That one's pretty good. So's that one. And the more you do it, the better you get. Like the Russian writing on the turrets. I still think that. I mean, that turns out pretty well. What turned out really well, really really well, is the German names on the vehicles. Nope. Hold on 1 second. Okay, I will be right back in about 5 minutes. All right. Sorry about that, but I got interrupted with food that I didn't even know was coming. So, never turn down food. Not many people seem to use 20 millimeter anymore. Everything seems to be made 20 millimeter. You're right. Well, I don't have a history of 28 millimeter, so I didn't. I didn't grow up playing 28 millimeter stuff or fantasy things or War. I've never played a Warhammer anything, so that's definitely the reason why a lot of that stuff went in that direction. When I started doing this, 28 millimeter was like there was nobody that made 28 millimeter World War II that I was aware of. The closest thing was there was this company by I don't remember what the heck they were called, but they made 25 millimeter. It was like West Wind Metals or something like that, and those were the ones that were bigger than. I mean, I'm sure somebody made 25 millimeter stuff. The old school 25 millimeter things that it's kind of that scale that doesn't really exist anymore, or there's no new things get added for it. As the old school 25 millimeter, like Essex 25 millimeter and things like that, minifigs 25 millimeter. But the 28s just didn't exist. As a matter of fact, historical 28s in the late 80s didn't really exist. And the ones that did look really out of proportion. Now, there's some beautiful things available in 28 millimeter and have been available for 2 decades. But if I had to do this again, I would still do the same scale. And if the scale didn't exist, I'd do 15s. I just don't have an attraction towards 28s. They're too expensive. They take up too much space. They take too long to paint. The problem with 15s is a lot of the 15s, like I like the Flames of War stuff that they make. I don't like the rules, but I like the stuff that they make. But a lot of the tanks are out of proportion. They've got soft edges where they should have them hard. And I mean like the edge of the turret on a Panzer III. I mean it's sharp. It's not wavy. And sometimes some of the 15 millimeter stuff by those companies is not as precise as like micro armor. Micro armor is like super precise and it's like super freaking tiny. Victrix 20 millimeter or more, like 25, they're not compatible with PSC 20. Victrix, I didn't know Victrix even made 20 millimeter. Do they make Ancients? Victrix. Victrix 20 millimeter. But when I was doing this, like every vehicle was available in plastic. Like even like they just didn't have that stuff available, so it was obvious choice. And you could use some Matchbox cars for close. They're 1/64th scale, or they're supposed to be 1/64th scale, or many of them are 1/64th scale. So a lot of these figures are kind of heroic 20 millimeter anyways. So they don't look that out of place. Just kind of, it's an obvious choice, It was an obvious choice at the time. I go to a show, I can't find anybody selling this stuff. But if I do, it's super cheap. Because they're like, man, I've been trying to get rid of this stuff for decades and nobody buys this scale. And I'm like, okay, here I come. But quite like the PSC figures, just a shame they don't have more options. The thing about the PSC figures is they have many different sculptors in there. And some of the sculptors, I don't like how they look at all. And some of them are superb. Like I don't like the 8th Army and Afrika Korps PSC figures at all. They remind me of FAA, which I really dislike FAA. For FAA having such a complete line, I am not an FAA fan. I have some of their figures. they have these faces that all look the same and they're awkward looking. Like if you're gonna have a bunch of figures that all have the same face, they gotta be like Airfix or they gotta be like AB, where they all have a similar face, but it doesn't have these proportions that are like really unusual. You know, if you have a whole bunch of guys that look like Willem Dafoe, you know, you can't have a whole army, a whole platoon of guys that look like Willem Dafoe because he's an unusual looking dude. You know, the Britannia miniatures. The Britannia miniatures also have a very unique looking figure that looks almost like a cross between, I don't know, say Simon Cowell and James Coburn. A very distinct, big-headed guy that, you know, whether it's a guy in the Eighth Army, the African Corps, or Waffen SS, or somebody on the Russian front, or USGI, or a Japanese guy, they all have the same face. And it's like, that doesn't work for me. But it is nice that there's a lot of options, because when there's a lot of options, it's good for the consumer. The guy that I was playing this stuff growing up, he was a huge FAA fan. I like combat miniatures, and he didn't like combat miniatures, and it was like, you know, that's fine. You know, everybody has their preference. But the reason I got into this scale was actually because of combat miniatures. I saw these things. This is exactly how they were packaged. Actually, they were in a hard box. They were in a hard thing. This is what they look like, and they had them in Tampa. This place called Emperor's Outpost. That would go down to Tampa and get them. And I saw these figures, and back when I could see up close, without pulling my contacts off, and I'm like, these guys look freaking amazing. And every single one of them looks different. I want to play a game with these guys. So we started creating a game. And never got anywhere. And then Face of Battle came along, and I'm like, have these guys been listening to our conversations? Because there's a whole lot of things that are really similar to the way I would handle them. And, you know, that was that. But I didn't really have a local player to do that with. And then everybody moved away, and I was like, well, I want to play with something that I'm painting, and DBA came along, and bam, that's it. And next thing you know, I'm stuck 18 years doing that. But I'm not an ancients and medieval person. I had never played with Romans before DBA, ever. Why? Nobody around me played with Romans. You know, I knew about the Romans. It's like I took electives of Western Civ and stuff in college. It's like I was ignorant to ancient history. I was ignorant to playing war games with them. So, and I come back. I 20-year hiatus from World War II, and there's so much information out there that on the net for free. There's misinformation too. You know, you got to be careful you kind of have to have an idea of what you're looking for before you start diving into stuff. It's almost like if you're doing a math problem, you kind of have to, and you're using a formula, you kind of have to have an idea of what the answer is going to look like. You can't just be like, well, it's negative 2300. I guess that's what it is. I mean, you know, you've got to have kind of an idea of what it's going to be. If something doesn't seem right, you know, double check it. But there's so much free stuff on the internet that, you know, it's funny. I was reading something a couple of years, maybe it was only like 1 year ago, and this guy was an older guy, older than me, and it was just, he was commenting, I'm playing my first World War II game ever, and I'm like, what the fuck have you been doing? And it was a war gamer. It wasn't like somebody who never played war games before. It was like, dude, what do you play if you're not playing World War II? Because I've been playing World War II since I was like freaking 9 years old, you know? Ever since I was eyeing that Guns of Navarone playset. That big freaking 36-inch tall mountain or whatever the hell it was. What else is there to play if you're not playing World War II? I mean, come on. I'm going to mix up a tiny little batch of something similar to this, and I'm going to touch up the little toe hook things. They didn't turn out just exactly how I wanted them. So I'm going to do that by grabbing this green ochre, which is the dry brush color on top of the Panzer Gray. I'm going to mix this up. I don't know why I'm doing it on here when I could be doing it here. Acting like making things difficult. We use this one, put a little bit of this here. Let's grab a little bit of the Panzer Gray. something like that. And touch up the metal. I think it was might have only been that one. But because I'm nearsighted like I am and I'm using it, I got to look at this thing and I see all the little imperfections. And at the same time, you got to have the contrast so you can see it at 2 feet away. It can't be just like, oh, it looks great here and it looks like shit over there. And it can't look like it looks great 2 feet away, but doesn't look good here. Because I have to fool myself. So, and let's take a little bit of this. Let's lighten it up ever so slightly. Remember that? And ever so lightly. And now, I don't do any chipping, but I do handle this thing with my hands. And because I do that, I get free chipping. And let me show you something. This is not by design, this just happens. Look at the edge of that. It still has some of the dark gray or the black showing. The PSC Desert figures are Adler 20 mil metals recast. See, Adler is not a company I'm familiar with, but I don't really like that style. I know that guy's a better sculptor than I'll ever be. That's fine, but I don't claim to be a sculptor. I don't really like that style. Now, the Marines, the U.S. Marines that are sculpted by them, by PSC, look great. And somebody was telling me, my Spanish friend was telling me that was a Spanish sculptor that that did those. Is it the Plana Mayor guy or the other one or Zan? One of those two guys. And I love the style those are done in. Those have a very similar feel to combat miniatures. As a matter of fact, I considered getting those and modifying them and painting them as U.S. Army infantry and the Philippines in '44. Okay, so these guys, I'm going to say are done at this point. So we're going to have to dull coat these, which of course makes everything look better. I don't know, it's the freaking magic. So at this point, I'm going to set these guys off to the side and we'll work on the 3Gs, the 3 Panzer Gs, Panzer 3Gs. Okay, and same thing, we're going to take these bottle caps, which now we have more bottle caps. That's good. Did you need me?
It was off the hinges.
Was it?
Yeah.
And we're going to take these little road wheels. Actually, one of them is... Actually, these road wheels, that's how much detail this guy does, is these road wheels are actually different on the G and the H, and he actually represents that on them. So I'm going to squish that one in, and squish that one in. So we can prime these blacks, so they'll be ready to... That's got to dry. Okay, and then this one will have... So we'll set a jerry cans back here. Adler more known for the 6 millimeter stuff. Yeah, yeah, that's what I remember them. They're like bigger heroics and Ross guys. It's funny because we always call them in the States Ross and heroics, and it's not. It's heroics and Ross. Which heroics and Ross 6 millimeter figures were a lot better than I like the way that they looked. A lot better than like the GHQ guys. I always liked their figures. How am I going to do this? Let's double this over. Okay. That's for this tank. And this one in the middle, we're going to have to add more things to it than that just to give it the same kind of dimension. And this is the second company. This is second company, first platoon. And the third company, actually, of this unit did not participate in Operation Crusader. They didn't get delivered until late December. They didn't participate in the early battles. That's the third company. The third company and the seventh company actually didn't participate. So we made sure not to use any of those numbers. Okay, so this is the one. This one goes with this one. If I mix them up, it's not that big of a deal. There's this huge. Oh, that was the other one. Is this the same as the other one? It is. Maybe I will put. Maybe I will put it on the roof. Yeah, maybe I'll put it. Maybe I will put it on the roof. On one, since the color of them turned out so well. All right, let's get our. And I love this stuff to paint with, to hand paint it with, because it just goes everywhere. It like gets in all the nooks and crannies, and there's no air bubbles that pop and leave this surprise. There's an air bubble here, but business. Yeah, let's use one that's a little bit in worse shape than that. Nope. That's our new dry brush one. Let's use this shitty thing. Nope. Give me another one. I don't want to clean that with hand sanitizer right now. Say this one. Yep. All right. Have you got any plans for making any Italian vehicles? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's one of the things I actually was looking for in Europe. When I went to Europe, I figured I could get a deal on those Italeri things. I've got an Italian M1139. The only thing is that I had it glued open and I did not paint the hatch because it was going to be open, and I don't have an Italian commander yet. So I'm just going to remove the hatch You can just pretend that it's open. And it opens kind of upwards. But this one's fully painted. And let me just take a picture of it. This is also 3D printed by, what's his name? What I didn't realize is the M1139. The reason I picked the M1139 is because nobody makes this. So when I use this 3D printer guy for the first time, I'm like, I want one of these tanks. You know, the funny thing is this tank looks like shit compared to the amount of detail that Ron has on his tanks. Clear your lens. Mind your own business. So just disregard the color of the hatch. And this is the color that Vallejo recommended to use for the base color of their Italian vehicles. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Now, a lot of Italian vehicles have a couple different shades. This just happens to be their yellow. And yeah, I got some Italian figures. I'll be doing some Mai Tais for sure. But one of the things I was looking for in Europe there's a couple things I was looking for in Europe. I didn't find either one of them. One of them was because just like the United States, there's no hobby stores in Europe. They're severely lacking. But one of the things I was looking at, Italeri makes a 2-pack of M1340s for an extremely reasonable price. They're like $15 or something like that for 2 tanks. That's super, super cheap. The problem is by the time you add in the shipping for us, it's just really expensive. So I'm like, okay, I'll buy them in Europe. We'll have to pay the shipping. Nobody had them, you know. So I could see having 5 packs of those, 10 of them, because they come with decals for the license plates. The license plates on the Italian tanks are very prominent, and they would be very difficult to do by hand, extremely time consuming, and it comes with like sets of decals for 10 different vehicles, so that's pretty cool. And during Operation Crusader, those guys in the Crusaders, right at the beginning of the battle, of the operation, it's more than one battle, but at the beginning of the operation, fought at this place called Bir El Gubi, and at other times too, and it would be handy to have those, but nobody had those. But I didn't really need anything because I needed to come back and finish working on this. See, this is kind of thick. Let me do a no-no. We should just pour a tiny little bit. There we go. Just that. That's it. This stuff goes a really long way. Make sure we put the right lid on here. Because closing this lid through this container, I end up always creating a mess. Always getting paint and stuff on me, which is, it's still got paint on me. And the problem with getting paint on yourself is actually, that might just be regular black. You could transfer it onto something else you don't want to and create a big disaster that you have to fix. So, but this stuff behaves the same way that, I don't know how durable it is, but this stuff behaves exactly the same way I would describe thinned down black enamel. It just gets in everything. Except it doesn't have any of the bad fumes. And you can clean your brushes with water. A lot of the model shops have closed around here. There's a Hobby Craft, but that's about it. You're in New York State, right? There's supposedly a pretty good hobby store in Massachusetts. Well, hold on. Connecticut? There's a big hobby store in Connecticut. I saw some article about it. I'm like, damn, I was just in Connecticut a couple years ago, but it's not near the part of Connecticut I was in. It's like some train store or something like that. I forget what it's called, but it's one of those places where some old guy works and they haven't moved the inventory in like 40 years. You know, that's why there's stuff there. London, okay. Yeah, there's no hobby stores in London. I would know. I tried to go. Well, you've got Hannon's, right? I would have gone to Hannon's if I had more time, but yeah, there was no store in London other than and Hannon's was just too far away. I mean, I only had 48 hours in London. It was super super rushed, but it's either that or you don't see anything. So, and had I decided to go to the Royal Air Force Museum instead of the Imperial War Museum, I would have gone to Hannon's because it's right next door. But it almost gives me the impression that that store, just from looking at their website, that it's almost like a warehouse, and a lot of the stuff isn't there at the store. In which case, that doesn't really do you any good. But I went to four different places in Madrid, four different hobby stores in Madrid, one in Gibraltar. Is there one in Sevilla? No, there was one on the outskirts of Malaga. The Gibraltar one had really good prices, but they just didn't have a lot of stuff in stock. I ended up picking up the two M10s from Armorfast for £9.45, tax free or tax built in. Not That's a steal. That's a steal. I would have bought more stuff, but I would have bought more of those, but they didn't have any more. So, and again, it's one of those places where it's like, oh, thank God you're coming to buy the 20 millimeter stuff because nobody has that. Did watch your driving video around Big Ben. Well, I took those things because if I got to show my mom or something, I can just like play it. It's not with any kind of commentary or anything. It's just I would have done more. I would have done commentary in the Imperial War Museum, but there was too many freaking kids, man. It was like the 10-year-old's day out or whatever. And it's like, man, shouldn't these kids be in school? But anyhow, um, I don't want to live in London, but I'd gladly go visit it again. I thought it was awesome. Other than the driving on the wrong side of the road, you can have that. It's difficult to cross the street, man. You're across the street, like, man, there's nobody coming. Dude, they're coming the other way. What? It just felt like when you were walking around, you were like a little drunk. Had a couple drinks in you. That's what it felt like. That's it. That's Everything else was just fine. We loved the Abbey. The Abbey was freaking awesome. The Abbey was great. Now, I wouldn't have enjoyed the Abbey had I never played DBA because, you know, I learned a lot of medieval history and stuff like that playing DBA, more than I already knew. Yeah, we spent about 3 hours in the Abbey. We couldn't have spent more because, you can't. I would have loved to have gone out to the Tank Museum. It's in the middle of friggin' nowhere. The only thing you could combine with the Tank Museum would be like to go to Southampton or Stonehenge. It's over kind of in that area, but that involves like getting a car. I don't. I've got no business driving on the wrong side of the road. That's just a way to ruin your holiday. Like no, 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 no. That's your guys' rules. You could follow that stuff. But it's like in the middle of nowhere, compared to everything else. I mean, so really couldn't combine that with anything else. I appreciate you keeping the weather nice for us. We really enjoyed it being cold and wet, and I'm not being facetious. I'm serious. Like, we like it cold, and cold and dry would kill us. We're used to wet, so moist. Buffington's about 3.5 hours long. Yeah, it's just too. You just can't do that when you just have very limited time, and then going to Heathrow was an afterthought because it was just we needed to fly in that way to. It was a significant savings to fly into Heathrow instead of straight to Madrid. And I'm like, well, I mean, it's not like I would hate to go to London, so we're like, made it, and it turned out really well. So, and it made me want to, it made me want to go to Britain still. So there's still lots to see, obviously. You'd like Scotland? I probably would. I'm not a fan of the grey sky. And I swear somebody, Boudica or somebody, must have cursed the entire island because there's this curse of fog that sits over that between 2,000 and 8,000 feet that just blankets everything in this damn fog. But yeah, because when we flew out, it was foggy. I was like, oh, we're gonna fly over Normandy, on the way to Madrid. Nope, nope, couldn't see anything. The entire Bay of Biscay was completely covered. And on our way back, because we had to go through Heathrow on our way back from Spain, it was like as soon as you got over the channel, it was completely covered. I'm like, what? This is a freaking curse, And above that, it's like, oh, happy day, and you get in there, and it's like, what? What the hell did these poor people do to the gods to piss them off? But I would not, as somebody that's traveling and we're going to do a lot of walking, I want to be cold. I don't want to be like hot. Like I wouldn't go to London in the summer. I wouldn't go to Europe in the summer. Nope. So when it's dreary like that, there's only one thing I want: ice cream. It's like it's like a reward for happiness. But we misjudged how long it was going to take on the bus. We're like, look, we can use that bus for transportation. You can, as long as you don't have any plans on, as long as you've got all day to get to wherever you want to, because we didn't make it to Buckingham Palace. We said, oh, we got an hour and a half. We certainly could make it there, but nope, didn't make it. And then we went the other day, and they weren't doing the changing of the guard the other day, so we missed out on that. But oh well. So we'll have to go back to London someday. Okay. Darn. It's not a big deal. It's not like it's our king. We don't have to look at him. No, we had a great time. And I could just feel the freaking history just flowing through me. I mean, I'm like, definitely the worst thing about this country. This country's history sucks. It's trash. It's, you guys that are in the UK, like, I like to play American Civil War. I'm like, what's wrong with you? Why would you want to do that? The history here is just trash. I mean, this country's great, but not the history. And I'll tell you what, I really surprised myself because it was the first time that I went to another country. I came back to the United States, and I wasn't like in love with the fact that I was back. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it was like it's nice going to somewhere else where there's some things that are better than at home, and that had never happened to me before. But I'd never been to Europe before either. So yeah, no, we'll definitely be back. But I'm also not one of those people. If it ain't American, it's a piece of shit. No, it's you know, I was actually really surprised and happy that um, that both countries that I went to, people were proud of the country that they lived in, and that made me happy because you just have this idea that that's not the case. There was Union Jacks everywhere, and in Spain there was a Spanish. It just made me happy, you know. So and Gibraltar, I got a Gibraltar video I got to do. I just have to edit it. It's actually probably the best video of all of them because the guy that's our tour guide, he speaks both languages, but he was superb. It's mostly in English, and this guy has such an interesting accent. Is so easy to understand. I don't even know how to describe what kind of an accent he has, but um, the guy was incredible. So yeah, we had a great time. It cost a fortune, but we had a great time. It's like we got to go through Gibraltar. We'll never go to Gibraltar again. It's just too difficult. The cruise that we didn't get to go on was going to go to Malta. That was a place I was looking forward to go into. But yeah, the cruise that was canceled, that was a previous year. We are going to do a European cruise. It was going to start in Venice, and we were going to go around a couple stops in the Adriatic, three stops in Italy, hit Palma de Mallorca, three stops in Spain, and end in Lisbon. And they canceled. It was supposed to be like in November or something like that, or December of not last year, but the year before. And in June, they said, "Well, we're moving that ship. We're not going to do that." And because one of the things that for us spoiled Americans are, we're used to like air conditioning and stuff, and I'm concerned with that when it's time to go to sleep. And I'll tell you what, we had a problem with the heater. Like we ended up like sleeping with windows open every chance we got. I didn't care because every temperature that we encountered was the same temperature that they have in Florida. It wasn't like -20 or something like that. I'm like, it gets to 20 degrees. It gets to 18 degrees where I'm here. Like we can deal with that. Like, the only thing difference is it's like clear, beautiful, most no clouds in the sky kind of thing, not gray, but it's we're used to dealing with that. But the heater, man, they had the heaters cranking in all these places, like in the room. Like, turn that stuff off, man. It's killing me. I can't breathe. But no, we loved Europe, and well, my daughter's still there, so man, I wish I was my own kid. Okay, so we have put down the base color, the primer for all these, And now we're gonna have to sit this out. So we probably won't be back until in the morning. So this has got to cure before we can continue on. But anyways, thanks for coming by, folks. And we got a little bit more headway. These guys are done. They're done. Now they're done. And just got to spray them. Got to spray them. So, all right, folks, thanks for stopping by. We'll see you guys in the morning. See ya.